Welcome. Welcome to the XYZ podcast. I'm your Gen X host, Christine.
I'm your Gen Z host, Faith King. Oh, God.
And
maybe
I am fresh from her workout, and Faith is
I'm actually
not happy with her hair.
Yeah, I just feel like my hair is it's giving bowl cut with these bangs. Or like, what's her face? Velma from Scooby-Doo. Sometimes I feel like my bangs when they're straight across.
That's okay. I have 1970s glasses on, so maybe we're...
But 1970s glasses are back in.
No.
This haircut has never been in.
I think they're back in, though, for, like, young, cute people that are your age. I'm not so sure they're back in for me, but...
Well, I have an eye exam
I got
tomorrow.
them.
We'll see, folks.
We'll see. Anywho, I look like the captain on that Will Trent show that I watched.
She does have good glasses.
So she's my age. So that's good. Anyway, hi. Welcome.
Welcome.
It makes sense that we're talking about Will Trent, because today we're going to sort of talk about the TV show The Pitt. So if you haven't watched the end yet, maybe don't watch
spoilers,
because there's some spoilers. But also, we're really talking about it because we started talking about it the other day. So I watched it all last season. Faith kind of jumped in this season and then went back and watched the first season. And she had some feelings about the season and then the season finale. And she's been telling me about her feelings all season. But I've kind of kept my mouth shut. And then she was telling me about the season finale, and I couldn't keep my mouth shut anymore. And we realized sort of in the midst of the conversation, it was a very Gen X, Gen Z conversation. And we don't often fight on this podcast. So we were like, we should bring it to the podcast because we do not see this eye to eye.
Put it on the mics.
So I was like, we should be recording. And we didn't, but we're hoping to reenact it for you now. So I'm going to let you start with what what was it that was bothering you?
Okay.
And she's very nervous to talk about this because she thinks that somehow the creators of The Pitt are going to be listening, and then they will
just
blacklist her in Hollywood.
Yes. I would like to say to R. Scott Gemmell and Noah Wyle, if you're listening to this podcast, the only reason that I am able to go as in-depth and nitpick what I am nitpicking is because you wrote a really good television show. And if
no one's arguing that.
So no one's arguing that fact. And if you're looking for like a fresh young voice, please hire me. With that out of the way, I also feel like that's a very Gen Z thing to feel like you can't critique anything in good faith without saying you think
about being canceled.
Everything should, these guys are bad. Well, and I don't think these guys are bad.
Also, what's interesting is that you went at it like critiquing the artists and the writers. And I was like, what? Like, you're just pissed at the characters. So
yes,
that's actually great writing.
I found myself to be, I just found myself to be so annoyed. And I know, again, I did this all through when we had this actual conversation, awesome. Is I was like, I know, first of all, I know they're not real, but the show is so good that I feel like they're real and I get real people angry at them. And the ending, so spoilers for season 2 of The Pitt, but season 2 of The Pitt has kind of chronicled the lead character, Dr. Robbie, played by Noah Wyle, has kind of chronicled his like
unraveling.
I was going to be like the slow mental decline, but it's not even really slow.
It's not a mental decline. For those of you in the biz, what is happening to Robbie is called compassion fatigue, wherein you take such great care of everyone else and your job is so high stress and so high touch that you don't take care of yourself. And so you get fatigued from all the outpouring of compassion and all the intake of other people's trauma. Proceed.
Yeah.
That is what it's chronicling.
And
what Faith saw instead.
But the thing is, when you tee it up like that, this is the thing that made me so angry. And also that made me angry in this argument is that, like, when it's teed up so beautifully as like, compassion fatigue.
Well, wait a minute. Because the argument was literally 30 minutes of her. I was sitting on this couch in between clients, and she was just going at me about Dr. Robbie being selfish and mean and this and that, and she wanted him to have better consequences, and I sat quietly for a while and then was like,
no,
hold on.
Yeah, I know. It was just, okay. But what I am saying is that conversation happened in the privacy of our own home. And when we have this conversation on the internet, I'm going to look like a bitch because
because you were
maybe because I was being a bitch. I have a very, and this is like a young person radar. And I'm willing to admit that.
No, and I think some of this is good. I like this about your generation.
Is that I was watching the show and I had a really hard time because what I saw was a man who was clearly at the end of his rope mentally, 100% understood, who then was a dick to all of his coworkers, who were mostly women. Like, even Noah Wyle in an interview with GQ was like, I made a joke anytime I finished a scene where I was like, somebody bring me another woman to yell at. Like, it was a trend throughout the show that the conflicts were Dr. Robbie yelling at women, his female coworkers. He was always, respectful of the patients. He wasn't yelling at the patients, but he was kind of harshly talking to his female coworkers, particularly those that were not equal, but in similar medical standing. Because he wasn't rude to Dr. King. He wasn't rude to Dr. Santos. People that were he had one incident where he was rude to Dr. J, Dr. Giavatti.
Here's what I would argue. He was rude to the women he knew could take it.
Yes, but
I'm not, by the way, I'm not justifying any of this.
Yes.
I'm just pointing out.
Yes.
He wasn't mean to Dr. King because he knew that Dr. King wasn't in a position for her to be able to handle that.
Mm-hmm.
She was all worried about the deposition and sidetracked and often not really in the show, to be honest. But
But what I saw was this dude,
this old guy
being rude to all of these women around him. And then what it felt like was the show was asking me to not be as angry about that because he was going through this extreme mental break.
And here was my argument for her.
Wait, hold on. Is that
okay? Keep going.
I guess go, because I've got nothing. That was just how it felt to me. It was like I was like, how many more times am I going to watch this guy? And also, it then felt a little compounded by the world that I live in currently, which is like, how many more excuses are men going to get that they're like, oh, well, I was, I'm so sorry I was rude to you, but it's because I was sad, or I'm so sorry that I guess I hurt your feelings, but did you consider what my feelings were before I hurt your feelings? Like, maybe I wouldn't have been such a jerk if I didn't have so much compassion fatigue. Like, and I know that sounds insane. That is how it felt.
No,
I
love this.
Here are all these women who have to be subjected to just rage at the workplace.
I love this
because this guy is falling apart at the seams.
I love this because you guys don't know this, but you'll maybe hear it later, is that we are recording this right after recording one wherein we talk about how women need to learn to trust their own instincts about who are the bad guys and who are the guys that are just messing up. And so I love this because this is such a great example, because my point in that moment during the argument when she was railing away against Dr. Robbie was, he apologized to this one, he apologized to this one, he came back in and apologized to this one, he came back. And it was like, you didn't even see those parts of the show. Like, when I was like, I truly apologized to Dr. Giavatti. Yeah, but not enough. He apologized to Dr. So-and-so, but not enough. He didn't, again, the hard part about the show is that it's literally 1 hour at a time. And so it's all in the same day. He came back and repaired those relationships. And even if it meant somebody had to yell at him first, he was like, oh, crap. Like, there was one specific scene where I was like, we saw it in such a Gen X and such a Gen Z way.
We still disagree on how
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. I think what you saw is exactly what happened. And then I saw him differently than you did.
Yeah.
And I think that goes back to like what we were talking about earlier with the purity tests. Like, he messed up 100%. He messed up, but then he also came back and was like, shit, I messed up and I'm sorry. And I hope, and I respect you as a doctor or whatever, nurse or whoever he was yelling at the time. And I don't think he and Dana, I think his and Dana's was a little more like nuanced. I don't think he outright apologized to her.
And
they have this history of just treating each other shitty when they need to anyway.
Yeah.
So.
And that wasn't even the
No, you were mad about Giavatti.
I was mad about Dr. J because first of all, that's my goat.
But that was such a perfect arc of, he didn't get it. He was reacting to something he didn't fully get. The other doctor came in and was like, hey, you don't get it. Here's what's really going on. And then he went back into her.
Yeah. And was like, it's fine if you do this. Yeah.
Yeah. And then she sort of, well, wait, before he got to that, he went in to try to talk to her and she was defensive before he even got a chance. And he was like, he in that moment saw enough that he wasn't going to be defensive to her, but also he wasn't ready to like make nice. And I don't think she was either in that moment. And so as he's walking out, he like, you know, clings on to the one thing about him that she said that he's like, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
You know, like, and that, I mean, Faith was like enraged about that scene. And I was like, oh, I totally recognize that behavior of like, he still didn't know what he did wrong really, but he hurt because the other doctor hadn't yelled at him yet.
Yes. So the scene we're talking about,
if you watch the show, I guess.
If you watch the show, is
try not to ruin it, but it's too
it's too late. We've already spoiled it. Basically, Dr. Javadi, who is this like child
super
prodigy,
young. She's like 21.
She isn't 21. They talk about how she's
turned it that.
No, she's turning 21 on Tuesday.
Oh yeah.
They're like
it's
like a Saturday, and she turns 21 on Tuesday. She has been making like TikToks under the name Dr. J about being a hospital doctor. Like I'm sure we've seen in real life, like doctors make TikToks now. And she is caught making a TikTok about an incident that took place at the hospital in which one of their, again, spoilers, but like if you existed online,
she's
you knew
warning
it. She's using people about there was an ice presence at their hospital. And so she's using, and they arrested a nurse, and she's using TikTok and trying to use her following to get locations and whereabouts and warn her followers about ICE detainments that are happening across the area that takes place in Pittsburgh. And Dr. Robbie kind of walks in on her doing this, and he goes on this very Gen X rant of like, back when I was in medical school, we didn't have TikTok and all these, and she kind of cuts him off and is like, yeah, you didn't have TikTok or cell phones or ICE breaking into the emergency room and detaining nurses.
Yeah. Which you can see in that moment, he's like, fuck, she's right. Like, yes. I get it too. But he's not ready to do anything nice.
And he's not ready to admit that.
Quite honestly.
And this is where I got mad at literally the writers. And again, writers of the Pitt. I'm so sorry I hit my line.
I got mad at all of Gen X, actually.
I was. Well, yes, because it felt to me as a Gen Zer that this is so commonplace. And I wasn't.
But not with her parents.
Not with her parents. I actually was thinking of a time specifically that happened when I was living with my boomer grandparents this past summer. So maybe, sorry, Gen X. I'm sure there are Gen Xers that do this too.
In all the time, by the way. We are not boomers.
No, but this is such a like older person, younger person thing.
Yes.
It feels like.
For sure. It definitely, and I think it was meant to be. I think it was written that way.
You as a young person make what is a valid point to an older person, and what it felt like to me was she says all these things and she's like, I get it. And she walks away. And it's just Dr. Robbie standing there. And he says, we did have cell phones, maybe not for the entire time, but we had them. And I was like, I was enraged because I was like, this happens all the time where you, a young person, make a point and the only thing your superior hears is the one little part of it that you got wrong. And that's what they cling on to.
And I don't think that's at all what's happening. First of all, the fact that you think she was making a point, I think she was just yelling at him for being old and out of touch.
Well, yeah.
And he was yelling back at her for being young and not recognizing his experience as an older person. So, like, in that situation, both of them are not their best selves. Mm-hmm. Like, they're both defensive. Yeah. They're both saying things to each other that actually aren't
of a 12-hour shift.
Yeah, no one's making any points, actually. They're both just defensively yelling at each other, random facts. And I think in that moment, you see him be like, oh, God, I'm doing it. Like, she's yelling at me, and she's right about the fact that I don't fully understand her experience. And yet she's not ready to receive anything from me. And I'm not ready to really cling to anything. And then he sort of walks out like, well, not that old. We did have cell phones. Like, you know, he's like, I'm not the boomer that you're accusing me of being. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is that you watched that scene and thought she was making a point. And I'm like, she didn't make any points. She just yelled at him the same way as she should have. He was being a jerk. But, like, she wasn't making it.
Yeah, I guess she wasn't making a point.
She was.
But I feel like this is this is, again, Gen X, Gen Z, is that, like.
But they both get defensive, is my point.
Yes.
She's yelling at him about being old. He's yelling at her about being young. And neither one of them is actually hearing the other one or paying attention until I think the very end where he's like, oh, crap. Like, he sort of realizes what he's doing. But
Yeah.
that is not the moment for apologies. He does eventually come back to her and apologize.
Yeah. And I mean, I think this is such a like generational thing. And you and I kind of talked about this the last time too, of like, I felt like she was making a point because I'm also 23. Like, I was like, who has the
Well, she was
brain
assuming what
space?
he was doing.
Yeah, she
Her
was.
point was like, I know what you were doing. You think I was screwing around on the internet, but that's because you
Yes.
didn't have the internet, or blah,
Yes,
blah, blah.
you don't have
And she doesn't actually know that's what he was doing.
And there is a sense, however, of like, and I think they get this right, of like, I really understood that reaction because
Sure.
the world that I am growing up in is vastly different from the world that you grew up in. And it can sometimes feel like when you are a young person trying to do the right thing and an older person, a mentor figure, comes in and is like, you know, back when I was in medical school, you do want to say like, nothing about the way that you and I are walking through the world right now is the same. And I know that is not true. There is a lot of things that are the same.
Yeah.
But though, I mean, it's like, I was talking to my dad about this the other day. The way that the internet has formed is like, I feel like we're going to look back in 100 years and equate it to the Industrial Revolution. Like, it's such a world-changing event. And it can sometimes feel like when you are a young person who had no choice but to, not even no choice, because you were growing up alongside the boom of the internet, you understand it in a way that people 10, 20 years older than you don't, or haven't been able to catch up yet. You know, you are a rare exception in that you were plugged in.
No, I think my whole, not generation, I think my whole cohort, the years that I am, because we straddled that line. We started college and we had email in college and we were like, what is email? You know, we can remember getting the internet on a disc in the mail, and we can remember time before it, and we are fully immersed in it in our jobs and our lives and everything else right now. So I think we're a weird part of, even of Gen X. I think older Gen X, like my siblings aren't the same as me in that regard, but I think what you're describing is universal. It doesn't matter about the internet. For time immemorial, younger generations have thought older generations don't get them, and older generations have thought younger generations don't get them. Yeah. Like, that's the whole point of this show, is that to like change that. So that moment, that's exactly what that was. She was like, he doesn't understand my experience at all, and he's saying she doesn't understand that some of this experience is universal. Like, medical school is medical school, hospital work is hospital work. You know, this episode, this season also, they're all on a board, an old written board, because they get hacked. Yeah, and so the electricity goes out, and this younger generation is like, what do you mean we have to write with pens? Like, it's like the world ended and these kids don't know what to do. And the older doctors are kind of laughing like, yeah, this is what we had to do back in the day. They call in this old retired cranky nurse to come and help, because so it was like, maybe called ice. Like, she's
so absolutely.
Yeah, it's like the worst of the older generation, possibly.
One of the memes that I saw was like that. It was a picture of that nurse smoking a cigarette. Yeah. It was like, where was she January 6th? It's so true.
It's so funny. She's problematic. Anyway, I just think that what you felt and saw is 100% legitimate and so indicative of the generation that you are. And not just that your generation, but the younger one. If I was your age, I would have felt and seen it exactly the same way. This older cranky boss is having a bad day and he's taking it out on everybody. And I'm not, by the way, I'm not disagreeing. That's exactly what was happening.
And the thing that kind of sucked also was like, and you know, he did go back and like apologize.
Which is the part I thought was hilarious, that you just kind of forgot all that. Like, you glossed over the fact that he actually made amends for some of the things he did.
Yeah, I guess I did, because I was so angry with him already that I was like, I don't. And this is what's the brilliant thing about the show, is that it takes place over the course of one day.
One shift.
So one shift, 15 hours. Yeah. So I am still angry with him for something he did 3 hours ago, because in my head it was one episode ago. Whereas again, I'm sure I would like to believe, like, in real life, if my real life boss came to me and was like, sorry about that, bad call, that I would be, and this was the thing that you and I kind of talked about, is that, like, we, the audience, and this is something that's so hard to understand. This is, like, to put my creative hat on for a second. It's so hard because the show does a brilliant job of making you feel like you know these characters. You know their nuances, you know their little things. And the fact of the matter is, in the reality of the show, in the canon, we have spent 2 days with these characters, 30 hours total. So we, the audience, think we can do things such as gloss over the apology because we're still so angry, and because of the snippet of time that we are shown. I mean, like, I say this as a guilty party in this, that, like, because we're shown this snippet of time, we can extrapolate that as to, this is how this person always behaves. Like, I truly did, again, guilty party, I truly was like, oh my God, yes, he maybe apologized on that day, but what's to stop him from doing it again tomorrow? Like, we're not seeing, because we only get 15, again, and I'm in my own circular logic, I'm like, because we only see 15 hours, I am dissatisfied with the fact that I don't get to see any meaningful growth or, like, meaningful change happen. But in reality,
all I saw was meaningful growth.
Yeah.
The entire series. I was like, it in fact, one of the times she was so 2 things. One, I think your feelings about it are indicative, or are like, the example is that you were so pissed at Noah Wyle himself.
Well, I just was like, how dare you?
He wrote that character just to make you angry. It was hilarious.
I'm so sorry, Noah Wyle.
That's what you're doing. No, but I mean, to me, that is exactly the sign of good writing. Like, I'm sure he'd be thrilled to know that you were actually pissed at him, because that means he got the job done. Like, he wrote these complex and, humans are going to piss you off one minute and make you cry the next.
Yes.
Like, that same episode, I'm pretty sure it's the same episode where he goes on the tirade against, because she was like, he's only yelling at the women. And I was like, I mean, except for the 2 guy EMTs that he went crazy on for not taking good enough care of the woman.
Low-key slave.
So, like, yeah, and your face, you were literally like, oh yeah. Like, oh.
Look at that. Women want to live.
Lost over everything good that he did.
so mad at him. Once again,
unreal.
So mad at a fake guy.
Yeah.
This is not a real person.
No, but you were mad at the wrong person.
I was mad at Noah Wyle too. Noah Wyle, if you're watching this.
Like, these writers. I was like, these writers, you're mad at a fake character.
Noah Wyle, if you're watching this, great job, my man. Again, please give me a job. I would love to.
And we could do a whole other Langdon episode too, because we
these stones fly so nicely out of my glass house.
Different, completely differently.
But I think the other thing that I was trying to say, and this was your point that I'm going to steal from you because I feel like I'm coming across badly in this episode. So I don't
think so at all. I think there's going to be a million people who are like, yes, like, they're going to agree with everything you're saying, and there's going to be people that agree with me, and I'm not disagreeing with you. I think some of the things you're bringing up are exactly the right point. I'm also just like, what about this other thing that happened?
We as the viewer don't get the benefit of the off-screen time, and this is what makes the show so brilliant, is that there has been, 7 months in between the first season and the second season of real time where you can imagine that they have been in this hospital working together every single day, 12-hour shifts, all these things that, like, we only get a snippet of. And so the way, like, I think we talked about the ending with Dr. Mohan, that she was like, I initially, before talking to you, was like so dissatisfied with her ending that I was like, I kind of hate that he gets to, like, say now I'm actually, after talking to you, I'm like, no, this is exactly it, because she kind of doesn't let him off the hook, and they're like, yeah, I mean, you're kind of a dick, but this place runs with you, so even if you're a dick sometimes, like, don't, like, take care, like, don't. And what that, with the benefit of hindsight, is that she has 2 years of working with him where he was kind to her, like, 2 years.
And he rode her in a way. So this is the doctor that he the season 1 opens with him picking on her because she's slow, but she's slow because she's really understanding and learning the patients. And then in season 2, at some point, he suggests she's not having a great day in season 2. She's got home problems that are an issue. They're bleeding into work problems. And ironically, he yells at her for that too, which he's the king of home problems, bleeding into work problems. But
which buddy?
But he also suggests, and I think she takes it as an insult at first, but really to me it was something that he like knows her well.
He doesn't phrase
gerontology.
He doesn't phrase it in the best way.
No, yeah, he doesn't phrase
it.
anything in the best way this season 2. He's just kind of off the rails, but he suggests gerontology to her.
Geriatrics.
Anyway, well, we're told it's realistic, so that's good. Yes. You could be a doctor. Anyway,
I can put a chest tube in somebody.
The point is, he suggests a future for her that he thinks would be fitting for her skills, and she, I think, at first takes it as an insult, but then I think slowly realizes, like, oh, well, we are led to believe, like, he knows her well. He's spent time with her. He sees this as a benefit, whatever. But also, you could get pissed at him for it.
What the show does that's great is that the other doctor, Dr. Al-Hashimi, that she worked with at the VA before coming here, suggests it as well.
Yes.
She's like, I think, I've seen you work.
I don't even think he suggests it, right? So she says it and he's like, oh yeah, you'd be good at that.
She comes to him after having just successfully treated an older couple, like realizing like they came in because of one thing and she realized it was caused by another thing. And so she spent some time like getting everybody's meds situated and all these things and did it. And it's a really moving actually moment in the show. And she comes to like report to him and be like, hey, just want you to know they're being discharged XYZ reasons. This is what's going to show up on the chart. And he is like, have you given any thought to geriatrics? It's more of an art. It's like the inverse of a compliment sandwich of like, he gives her 2 compliments, then he ends on like, not a great thing, because he's like, yes, he's like, it's more of an art than a science. You seem to have, you're doing this. And then he's like, you seem to have a predisposition for the pace, meaning that like, you can afford to go slower.
Yeah.
And it is like, it's like, swing and a miss. Like that's you watch that and you're more like, oh, if listeners just showed me that it's right,
because I'm like, I can't let this be on the air. I completely made up a word. No, it's the multidisciplinary study of biological, psychological, and societal processes of aging and the societal impacts of an aging population. So there you go. So she would not be going into gerontology, but I'm not completely wrong.
No,
thinking it had something to do with geriatrics. Anyway.
It's swing and a miss. It's he is not in a brain space where he can phrase that anyway other than bad. And you kind of watch her be like, dick, like why say that to me? And then at the end of this season, she's like, maybe I will go into geriatrics. Like maybe you're right. And he is like, I think I think you should worry about the rest of your life too. Like he kind of does a like, take it from me, like this place is maybe bad for us. And he almost is like realizing for not the first time, but like it feels like he has to like keep repeating it to himself so he believes it.
Well, and I always forget her name, the cute one, Dr. J.
Dr.
When
Jabati.
she does the like, why would I come here? This person has this. Like she like ticks off how all of the doctors have their own like existential crises happening, and is like, why would I go into emergency medicine? Like, look at this. It's like chewing these people up and spitting them out. And I think all that happens at around the same time. And so,
so and she kind of Dr. Mohan kind of hears Dr. Robbie being like, this place is maybe bad. And she is like, yeah, you're right. And you're good at this. And like, even if you're a dick sometimes, like, and it's just and the actor, Supriya Ganesh does a great job of being like, letting him off the hook in the way that you let people you've known for a long time off the hook for being mean to you.
Part of them isn't their whole self.
Yes. You see from the way that she plays that scene that the character is like, I am willing to forgive the past 15 hours of treatment from you because of the last 2 years I've been here, that I know that you are good at this and you are not usually an asshole to me.
And I think this goes so perfectly with our last conversation about feeling annoyed versus feeling unsafe, like understanding that spectrum of human interaction and trusting your own gut on, is this unsafe or is this like, that's a perfect example. This guy is not acting well, and he's not acting in a way. If you didn't know him, you might think this man is unsafe, but she does know him, and she just knows that this is annoying and not the behavior she wants to be around a lot. And if he continued to do it for months and months at a time, it might be a different story. But, other than that first, I think it's like the very first episode of season 1 where he's sort of like, you got to speed it up, Dr. Mohan. He doesn't really, and in fact, he compliments her a lot in season 1 and talks, even compliments her in season 2 a couple times for things that she's done. So, giving humans the break that they need sometimes to be like, yeah, they messed that up, but it doesn't color everything. I think we talked before we were even on camera about cancel culture, and like one person's mistake is not enough to like erase them forever or discount the whole rest of the relationship you have with one another. And I love that they don't let him off the hook either. Like, they don't accommodate him. They don't allow it in a way that's like gonna perpetuate it. They might allow it in the moment, but like Javadi comes back at him. She comes back at him. The young lady, the brand new lady that's like, I'm out. My shift is over.
Yeah. Love you, Joy.
Love that girl. Yeah. Even the little farm boy says something a little bit like, are you,
Yeah.
are you going to come back? Yeah. Like, they all sort of give it back to him, which I don't know 20 years ago if he in the same position would have spoken to his superiors that way. So I do think there's a nice growth that shows in this show too. It was just funny to me in real life that you were almost had such a blind spot for the repair. I preach all the time. This is probably not good news for all the parents I work with, but I preach all the time about parenting, that like so many parents are worried about perpetuating things, cycles that they maybe grew up in and maybe didn't even realize they grew up in until they had their own kids, and they don't want to do the same thing. I don't want to do that to my kids. I don't want my kids to feel this way when they're adults. I don't want to whatever. And I'm always like, look, knowing is half the battle. That awareness is half the battle. So even if you do scream or take your bad mood out on them one time or call them a name or do the things that are so taboo, as long as you go back to them and say to the kid, I've screwed this up and I'm sorry, and I can't promise you I won't do it again, but I want you to know it has nothing to do with you. I preach that all the time. The repair process is the most important part. And I know there's all millions of other parenting people out there who say the same thing. And so I think like it's alarming to me that as an adult, you're going, I didn't even notice the repair.
Well, I think some of it is also to give
TV.
myself a little credit. Yeah, this is a TV show.
TV.
Like,
it's not real life.
And
like you said, I'm hoping that in those hours in between that we're not privy to, I think that's why. I think the reason why you were so dissatisfied with their, as you call it, letting him off the hook, really what we are seeing is that actual human interaction of, they know him well enough to accept the repair as like, yeah, he messed up. He's in a bad spot right now and he messed up.
And I think some of television, and I'm definitely paraphrasing like things I've read, but like the thing that makes The Pitt such good TV is that it is literally, this is very theater school, so forgive me, but it is quite literally like holding a mirror up to the audience. And it's like, hey, look, this is genuine human interaction that we're putting on your screens. Like, we are putting the mess ups, we're putting the flaws, we're putting the kind of weird, like, it's one of the running gag that like The Pitt is the only show that's making everybody put their phones down. And it's because like, if you are half watching
you better be paying attention.
Yeah, if you're second screening it, you're missing a lot of it. The thing that I think sometimes puts people on their back foot is that sometimes we watch TV for escapism. And like, I myself
don't watch the show if you want to escape.
But like, I myself as a writer have been known to say like, I like it when I can do stories where like the people are nice to one another. And it's been my like artistic soapbox that I'm like, I hate it when prestige TV or like prestige movies are all about like people treating each other like trash, and like they all have to be like, everyone's so sad, everyone's so angsty. And this show, I think I personally had a hard time with it because I loved it so much, and I was like, but he's being so mean, and I want him to be a hero, or I want the show, sometimes I am stupid, and I want the show to have no nuance, and I want the show to look at him and be like, this is bad. And you shouldn't treat your coworkers this way. Like, I want it to be like baby sensory play of like, let's explain happy, sad emotions. And I think what is so great about the show is that it doesn't do that. And it does kind of like, it does what like good art is sometimes known for, is that like it almost forces you to have the conversations with the people you watch the show with.
Well, or like good art, it's fully open to your interpretation, because I did see all of those good things that you didn't see. I saw the repair process. I saw the full arc of humanity out of these characters. Not all of them, but we're still supposed to be left wondering what Robbie's going to do with himself. But like, I saw somebody say, how come nobody's talking to him about it? And I'm like,
no, that Jack Abbott,
about it.
All everybody did was like, you would think that like everybody was
and
like,
Abbott went right at him about it.
That Jack Abbott scene is like so. Yeah. I was like, shoot. Also, like,
and he's the only one that can have that. Maybe Dana, she could have had that conversation with him too, but she kind of did. She's like,
yeah, but she tried. She tried, and
she's more like, go take care of yourself.
Yeah,
and he's like, okay, hypocrite. So yeah, that was tricky because she didn't take it. But I think we're led to believe that she did take time off. So
yeah, she's back. You know, they practically play when she walks into the ER with her aviators and her cigarette. They practically play Return of the Mac.
Yeah,
like it's crazy. But I think that it ultimately makes you recognize that like real life is messy, and real life doesn't always work like hardly ever like TV.
Yeah.
Like it's
and sometimes you want those TV shows where everything's wrapped up in a bow at the end because you just don't want to think. But
sometimes
other times
I need to put on New Girl.
Right. Oh, so good. If they're written well, the authenticity is what's good. I mean, think about Ted Lasso. Like, there's nothing sad about Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
Occasionally there's some sad things.
They live in
for the most part, everything is
world
lovely and
everything
glorious.
Works out.
And still consider prestige TV because it's so well written that you somehow can suspend belief for half an hour and think like, this is how the world is.
Yeah.
And we need it so bad right now. But the Pit is just this beautiful picture of humanity in all of its mess and ugliness and glory. So I just thought, what a great example of how two different generations see the exact same thing in totally different ways.
And Noah Wyle, once again, if you
would love to work with you,
I think you're a great writer.
I think you're a great writer.
I'll be honest, can't promise I won't be exactly like this in a writer's room. Ask my current writing boss the amount of times that I have pushed back against her. Yes. But also ask her that I'm good at listening, because I am. Yeah, if the Pitt creative team is looking for a writer.
That's what was one of the things, and we'll wrap it up after this, I promise, because you got to go to work. But that was one of the best parts about this conversation, was that Faith is typically very measured in the like, even when she comes at you with something that's completely her point of view, she can almost say like, I understand that this isn't really blah, blah, blah. Anyway, not this time, man. She was pissed and she was flown off the handle and she was mad at Noah Wyle and his writing partners and everybody that was for the show. And it was awesome. I was like, this is how you know it's really good TV, is that she is completely out of her own head and is just pissed at these humans.
I was mad
for not doing what she wanted them to do.
You would think I was in the pit with the way that I was like, I can't believe it. Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I will also tack on to that, and this is like, even when I did that, you still listened to me. Like, you weren't like,
well, I could see your point of view.
Yeah. Like, I think sometimes we get, and this is why I was defending Dr. J, even though she wasn't really making a point, is that sometimes older generations, you talk a lot about like respectability of like, well, if you're not going to make a point in a polite way, then we're not going to be able to have a conversation. And sometimes you get so caught up in your own thing.
Adults, I did that when you were 6.
Yes, but that is, I think the world at large still to like 23-year-olds is like, well, if you're going to speak in such a tone, then I'm not going to be able to listen to you. And I think it was worth, both in the Pit and also in real life, that like, just because I had a tone didn't mean that I didn't have something worth saying.
Well, and if it had been about like an actual thing I did, I'm not so sure.
Yes, that's true. Yeah,
but I think because it was about
the Pit.
Yeah, and it was just really fascinating to me, the difference in like what your observations were versus mine. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, I can't promise that anytime we disagree, I'm going to be so quite measured and calm.
That's true.
So I think, I don't know. We usually end with the wonder and like what we're reading, watching, listening to. I don't know that we necessarily, I don't know what we're going to watch now that Pitt's over.
Pitt's over. Well, we're watching
we're doing like palate cleanser television.
We're watching two shows to bring up. The show RJ Decker and the show High Potential, which I think are both ABC shows.
I have no
we
idea.
watch
We
them
watch
on
them on
Hulu,
so we don't
but
know
I think they're
anything.
ABC shows. And
RJ Decker, if anybody is my age, has Ben from Felicity in it.
And High Potential is Sweet D from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And
don't
those
ask me what either actor's name is.
Nope, wouldn't be able to tell you. But they're great. They're great shows, and they are like everything. Everything gets wrapped up except for the ending of season 3 of High Potential is a cliffhanger. Yeah. But most of the time, I can tell you that
Sweet D is the guy who owns the soccer team's wife.
Yeah,
I think Rob McElhenney. I do know his name.
I'm like, you know Rob McElhenney's name.
It's his wife. Mm-hmm. She's Sweet D. Anyway, it's great. Yeah. They're both great. They're both like every hour, everything's done. It's easy. Mm-hmm. I think my husband calls them like. All sugar, no protein. No, crime of the week or
monster of the week. They are monster of the week.
Yeah, monster of the week shows. Yes. Because it's like whatever the mystery is for the week, it's solved by the end of the hour.
Yeah, and it's good. It's good writing because
kind of surprisingly so.
It's good writing because you can. I think, and this is like again my creative hat again. Some of the fun of watching a mystery is trying to solve it yourself, and the good thing about all of these shows is that. The mystery, you solve the mystery almost like 5 minutes before the characters do. Like the mystery it's not so obvious that you are like, oh, she did it within the first 10 minutes. Yeah. But, it's an hour TV, like 45 minutes in, right before they make the bust, you're like, oh, it was this person. And then you're right. So I think that's good. That's good writing, in my opinion, too.
Yeah. 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 And I don't have, I will say, I just finished a book called Yesteryear. We spoke about Diabolical Lies on the last podcast, too. Diabolical Lies is a podcast that I listen to that I have sort of forced Faith to listen to recently. And one of the women, Caro Claire Burke, is one of the co-hosts who wrote this book called Yesteryear. And I'm bringing it up now because it is good writing in the same way that, you love-hate the Noah Wyle character. I'm not going to tell you much about it because I feel like it would spoil it, but the main character is someone that you think you should hate or like judge at the very least, but then you find yourself kind of understanding her and liking her at the same time too. So the book is really well written because it's a sort of fair assessment of really unfair things. And I was very impressed. I was, full disclosure, I kind of didn't want to like it because it's this young woman who got a book deal because she has a podcast. Now, she was trying to be a writer for a long time and was doing a bunch of different writing, professional writing. But I have a chip on my shoulder and was like, oh, this woman got a book deal. Like, so unfair. That's how the world works now. You
don't put that
podcasting and a book deal.
Don't put that out into the world because what if either of us gets a book deal out of this podcast and we're going to have to eat our words?
I'll eat my words. If I get a book deal because
Simon
this
Schuster
podcast gets big enough to get a book deal,
hit our line. Yeah. Just know that neither of us is too big.
I'm just admitting the humanity of my own self, which is like, I didn't want this young girl to have written a New York Times bestseller. I didn't think it was fair for my old self. Mm-hmm. I'm just telling you how it is. I know none of that makes any sense or is logical in any way, but that's just how it was feeling. So in spite of all that, I really liked the book. It was really well written and really creatively done. Like first of all, I don't know how the heck she thought of this kind of stuff, but the way that it happens, it's basically I'll give you the quick synopsis, which is that she is a trad wife influencer who finds herself in, the 1800s. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm going to say. But there is a whole lot more nuance and detail to it than that. And it's just really fascinating the way she was able to sort of weave it in and out. Also, go listen to the Diabolical Lies podcast because it's awesome. You love to hate them sometimes. And also you love to love them sometimes. It sort of depends on the topic that they're talking about. But they're great.
And I'll say my tie-in is that I just finished reading Margot's Got Money Troubles by Rufy Thorpe. And it's a great book. It's so incredibly written. And the thing that I thought was this is my Gen X, Gen Z tie-in, is that the character of Margot the book is basically about a young woman, Margot, who she has an affair with her college professor and ends up pregnant. And she decides to keep the baby. And she is 20 and broke and doesn't know how to make money and has a newborn. And so she turns to OnlyFans to try and make a little bit of money. And it kind of follows her like journey through that in a really creative way. And like her dad, who has been kind of in and out of her life, comes back into her life and kind of helps her out. And like, it's just a really wonderful book and story. And the thing that got me while I was reading the book is like, I'm 23, Margot is 20. We're not that far apart. And the book was so well written because there's a part in the book where the book shifts between first and third person, meaning like Margot will sometimes be telling you the story using I statements, and then she will sometimes be telling you the story saying like, Margot did this, Margot did that. And about 2/3 of the way through the book, I won't spoil, but there's a part where she is like, she actually starts the book by being like, sometimes I have to write this in the third person because it's easier for me to feel sympathy for myself if I pretend I'm talking about somebody else. Like I can look back on that time with more fondness because of this. And then about 2/3 of the way through the book, she kind of tees up. She's like, I really want you to remember what it was like to be 20 and how many decisions you felt like you were making and how much pressure you felt like you were under when I tell you what happened next. And I was like, what do you mean? What's going to happen? And then something happened in the book and I was fully 100% surprised in the same way that the character of Margot was 100% surprised. I was like, oh my God, I totally believed this character. I totally thought this wasn't going to happen. Like I sat there holding the book in my hand and was like, 100% I would have ended up in this exact same situation. I would have believed the people Margot believed. I would have distrusted the people Margot distrusted. And I would have ended up on my ass in the same way Margot is on her ass in this moment. And I think it takes a particular kind of skill to write what it's like to be a young adult and not have it sound either idealistic or pedantic. Like there are some books about being 23 that I read and I'm like, well, this is a movie. Like this isn't how life is. What do you mean she's wearing beautiful outfits all the time? Like, and then there are some books that feel like clearly the author is trying to relive the glory days of being 25, or they're trying to come down so hardly on themselves at 25 that the book feels like a lecture, basically.
That's what I think is the best part. That part you're talking about, she's basically telling herself, don't judge yourself for being 20 because I want you to remember what being 20 was like before I tell you this next thing, so you don't judge yourself for what happened when you were 20. And I think that summarizes the whole book. She writes it in such a beautiful way that it's like humans having a human experiences and trying so hard not to judge themselves too harshly for it.
Yeah.
It's so good. And it's also now a TV show with Nick Offerman, which, and wouldn't you want to watch?
Elle Fanning.
Elle Fanning's great too, but Nick Offerman.
It's so good. Yeah.
All right. That's all we got. We talked too long. She's going to be late for work.
Not late yet.
Thank you for listening. And, like, subscribe, leave us a review. We would love to see you around here more.
Take care of yourselves.
Keep looking for the wonder, folks.